Hey guys, this video is going to go over some more types of volume problems to continue what you were working on earlier this week. So if you can have your calculator out and then a sheet of paper or the note page to go with this video so you can be completing these problems with me. So quick refresher, you guys learned the volume formula for 3 different shapes. The first one was a cylinder, and we learned that the volume formula was you find the area of the base, which is a circle. So we did pi times the radius squared. And then we times that by the height. So my height's here. Okay, and again, remember a radius is halfway across to the center of the circle. So then we also found the volume of a cone. And if you remember, if I filled this cone up, 3 of them fit inside of a cylinder with the same height. Okay, so it took 3 of those to fit inside there. So the volume formula that we learned for a cone is volume equals, we did the area of the base again, which was pi r squared, times the height of the cone, which goes from the middle of the circular base to the top of the cone. And then we divided it by 3, because it's about the third of a size of the cylinder. And then the last one that we did was a sphere. I'm not great at drawing spheres, but picture like a basketball or a baseball. We learned the formula for that is 4/3 times pi r cubed. You can write that a couple different ways. You can write the 4/3 out front times pi r cubed, or you can do 4 pi r cubed divided by 3. Either of those work. So now today we're going to try to work backwards and find some missing dimensions of these shapes if we're given the volume. Okay, so let's go ahead and start with the cylinder. So you should see this picture. And I am trying to figure out, well, what is my height? So I do not know how tall this cylinder is. I know the radius. Okay, you can see that there. And I know the volume. So we want to see if we can work backwards to figure out what was the height. Okay, so the first thing I like to do is write down the volume formula. So my volume formula for a cylinder is I do the area of the base, which is pi r squared, because it's a circular base, times the height. Now I'm going to fill in what I know. So I know the volume is 2,411.52. I'm going to fill that in where the V is, because that's my volume, 2411.52, equals, I know pi, which is 3.14. Okay, I know my radius, which is 8, and I'm going to have to square it. And then my height, I don't know, so I'll just keep that as an h. So when you were in 7th grade and then again this year in 8th grade, you solved equations. So I'm going to just kind of draw my line down and I am going to try to solve this equation. So my goal is I want to get the variable h by itself. Before I do that, I'm going to actually work out and see, well, let's multiply the things that we know. So I have 8 squared, which I know is 64, times 3.14. So over here, when I multiply those two things, I get 200.96, and then I still have times h equals the 2411.52. Okay, I have one more step to solve the equation. The inverse of multiplying is dividing, so I'm going to divide both sides by 200.96. Okay, on the right side, 200.96 divided by 200.96 is just 1, or 1h. And then now I'm going to do the left side. I'm going to have to type that in. So go ahead and please type that in. Okay, when I work that out, I end up with 12. So that height of my cylinder is 12 centimeters. So I just worked backwards to find a missing dimension of my cylinder. So let's go to our second example. This time I have a cone and I want to try to find the missing piece of information, which is the radius. So I do not know the radius. I'm going to give you the volume and I know the height is 12. We want to see, can we find the radius? So first thing, again, let's go ahead and write the formula for a cone. So the volume formula is you do the area of the base, pi r squared, times the height. And then again, a cone is like a third of a same size cylinder, so I'm going to divide that by 3, or times it by 1/3. You can write it either way. So the next thing I'm going to do is fill in what I know. So again, I know the volume, so instead of a V, I'm going to put 113.04. I know pi, 3.14. times, I don't know the radius squared, so just put times the radius squared, and then my height is 12, and then I know that's divided by 3. All right. So there, again, there is multiple ways to do this one. I'm going to show you a few ways. I'm just going to rewrite that same thing quick if I had the 1/3 out front. So just give me 1 second. Okay, so I've got it set up 2 ways. I'll go through solving both depending what you like. So if I do the way in red first, okay, I'm going to have to get rid of this division by 3. So the inverse of dividing by 3 is multiplying by 3. If I times something by 3 and then I divide it by 3, it's just going to be a 1. Okay. Now if I times that side by 3, I have to times that side by 3. So I'm going to do 113.04 times 3. I get 339.12 equals on the other side. Let's multiply what we have. We have a 3.14 times 12, which is 37.68 times my radius squared. Okay, your goal is to get that r squared by itself. So the inverse of multiplying by 37.68 is dividing by 37.68 on both sides. Okay, that makes a 1 over there. So I get 1r squared equals, okay, I'm just typing in the other side, and I end up with 9. So let's think about this. So it says something squared is 9. I bet you can figure that out in your head. What number times itself is 9? Well, hopefully you can figure out that's 3, but if you can't, you can think, well, what's the inverse operation of squaring something? It's taking the square root of it. So r equals 3. My radius is 3. Okay, I'm going to solve that one more time using if I would have done this other way over here. So another option that you could have solved, some of you probably did it this way, is you're like, hey, why don't I just do 3.14 times 12 over here? Okay, got that on my calculator. And then take 1/3 of it or just divide that by 3. Okay, so I have right now 37.68. And then I'm taking it times 1/3 or dividing it by 3. I end up with 12.56. So I use that, and that, and then I also have r squared equals 113.04. Okay, still have to do the same type of steps. Next, I'm going to divide by 12.56 on both sides. I get r squared equals, and I'm typing that in, 9, and then some number times itself is 9. You guys know that the radius is 3 then. So you just worked backwards to solve that problem. All right, the last one I'm going to show you is you may be asked to find the volume of something called a composite figure or composite shape. So if you guys look at this shape, this does not have a certain name. Kind of looks like a silo if you think out in the country, but it doesn't have a specific name. It's actually 2 shapes put together. So if you guys look at this part, this looks like a cylinder, if you can kind of imagine that there, right? So I've got a cylinder on the bottom, and then sitting on top of it, I see a cone. You can see it comes to a cone shape there, and then I'll just trace that in pink. So there's my cone. I want to find the volume of that entire shape. Okay, so this is called a composite figure or composite shape. You put a couple shapes together. So if you're going to think, it's like if I'm filling this whole shape with water, maybe I would flip it upside down. That would make a little bit more sense if I was filling the inside of it with water. I want to know how much space is inside of it, or what's the volume. So to do this, we need to do kind of both shapes by themselves and then put them together. So I'm going to do the volume of the cylinder, and then I'm also going to have to find the volume of the cone, and then I'm going to put those together to get my total volume. So it's just kind of using everything we did the past couple days. So let's go ahead and try this. Let's start with the cylinder. So I can see my cylinder down here. Again, I'll trace it kind of in green here. Okay, volume formula for a cylinder. Volume equals the area of the base, which is a circle if you think down here, pi times the radius squared times the height. So I'll give you a second. Go ahead, see if you can find the volume of that cylinder. Just pause the video, and when you're ready, push play. All right, so we know pi, we're going to use 3.14 every time. The radius looks like it's 6, right? Halfway across the circle, so 6 squared times my height of my cylinder is 9. So you should have typed that in. If you didn't, go ahead and do it. I usually do the exponent first, so I do 6 squared, which is 36, times 9 times 3.14. I end up, just for my cylinder, the volume is 1017.36 centimeters cubed because it's volume. All right, now let's go to the cone. Again, I'll trace that in pink so I see this cone here. Okay, volume formula for a cone is I'm going to do pi r squared, because that's the base of that cone, times the height, and then I just like to divide it by 3. Again, you can do it another way as well. So I'm going to do pi is 3.14. The radius is, if you guys look here, you can see halfway across the circle is 6. That's also up on the top. So times 6 squared times my height, which is, just use another color. My height of my cone is 5. I can see that right here. So times 5, and then divide it by 3. Again, go ahead, pause the video, and type this in. Okay, when I type that in, I get 188.4 centimeters cubed. All right, lastly, to get the total, I need to go ahead and add my cylinder volume plus my cone volume together. So I'm just going to add those up real quick. Hopefully I didn't make a mistake. Okay, and my final volume is 1,205.76 centimeters cubed. I just found the volume of a composite figure. So I took a couple different shapes and I put them together, or figures, and put them together. All right, so now you are going to practice some of these the rest of your time. Please ask your teacher for help or check in with one of your classmates if you need a little help.